Almost every one of us have this habit of saying I'll accomplish this task later or I'll do it later, but that later is never a part of our future. That never appears. And here's the point. We actually struggle to take actions. We actually struggle to take decisions at the moment in order to get instant gratifications and some short-term rewards. And here is when procrastination comes in. Because when we actually procrastinate, we are valuing short-term rewards over long-term ones. For example, when I have assignments to do, I want to start a side hustle, or I might want to finish off my assignments and get my better grades. And whenever I want to accomplish those, I'm actually thinking in my head that should I do it now or I'll do it later. But the moment we think of this, we're getting that dopamine and we're actually getting involved in distractions which are increasing those dopamines. For example, if I want to study in the evening, or let's say I have an assignment and that is for any type of reason, and whenever I want to start to work for that assignment, I'm getting that procrastinating feeling or that sense of mind that I'll do it later, but first let's enjoy some time, let's have a pastime. But that is when we are putting off our work and we're getting involved in distractions. I'm sitting to finish off my assignments, but I'm instead grabbing my phone and I'm going through Instagram Reels or I'm going through YouTube Shorts. That is when procrastination comes in. Because when we procrastinate, we are valuing short-term rewards, that 30 seconds of happiness, or that, let's say in a higher sense, 30 minutes of happiness, instead of that long-term happiness. Whereas I know that if I do my assignments goodly, if I do my assignments in a good way, then I'll have my better grades. Or let's say if I have a task to accomplish and I'll get the profits in it in the future, but I'm not valuing that. I'm valuing that 30 seconds or even I say 30 minutes of happiness, just instead of that long-term reward. That is when procrastination is an obstacle and we all suffer with it. It's not a disease actually, it's just a habit. And when we acknowledge it, we are able to overcome it. And in order to acknowledge it, we have to know how an habit occurs. And habit basically occurs when we have a trigger of an action. For example, let's say brushing our teeth. So brushing our teeth usually happens or starts with that I have to wake up, then I have to brush my teeth. So I wake up in the morning, then I brush my teeth. Here, waking up is the trigger here, and brushing my teeth is the actual action. And the trigger for procrastination is always there, because we always have that stress ball in our mind that I'll have to finish this task or I'll have to finish that task, and everything is in our stress mind. So when we have that stress in our mind, we are feeling that trigger to put it off and feel happy. And that is when dopamine strike occurs, and as a result, procrastination also occurs. Procrastination now occurs because of three main reasons. And the first one, as I already mentioned, instant gratification versus long-term rewards. We are valuing short-term happiness instead of long-term happiness because we don't want to struggle now. We want to feel happy. And that is what happens actually, but we struggle in the future. So that's the first reason. The second reason for procrastination is fear of failure and perfectionism. No one is perfect on their first try, but you have to start in order to be perfect or in order to be better. Because if you don't start, how will you access yourself that I'm in this level and I have to be better and come up to the next level? And that is where we evaluate ourselves and get that feeling that, yeah, I'm better now. That is the second reason. And the way to overcome it is actually to start my work. The third main reason why we procrastinate is lack of action. Whenever we think in our mind that I'll have to finish this task, I'll have to complete it, we're actually thinking it inside of our mind and we are already procrastinating in our state of minds. Because we as human beings are structured in a way that whenever we start a action or we have to, whenever we indulge ourselves in any sorts of work, our brain is rewiring their connections in order to focus on that task. For example, if I have to write an essay, I'll have to sit and I'll have to take my pen and paper and get my brain ready to give off the instructions that I need and require in order to finish writing the assignment or finish writing the essay. That is when I rewire my brain's connections in order to focus on my task. When I'm not even starting my action, what I'm doing here is I'm actually feeding myself on that procrastination phase, that I'll do it later, but first I need to rewire my connections. That is also a form of procrastination. And now let's move on to the topics how to overcome this procrastination habit. Procrastination is a habit. So that's our conclusion from the first part. Moving on to the second part. How do I actually overcome this procrastination as an habit? And since we know it's an habit, and a habit is always avoidable through following some specific directions or specific tasks. The 2-minute rule states that whatever action or task we want to accomplish, we have to transform that action into a smaller version of it. For example, reading a book. It might be transformed into reading one page at a time, at least starting with it. Then writing an essay, that might be called as I'll write one sentence, or finishing off an assignment will start with I'll make sure that my title is well written and neat and clean. So whenever and whatever type of work we want to do, we have to transform that work into a smaller version of it in order to at least start that work. As I mentioned, the third psychological reason behind procrastination, lack of action. And as I also said, our brain is structured to rewire its connections in order to focus on the work that we are starting. And that's also a type of dopamine strike, but it's also far less than procrastinating. That is the reason why most of us fail to do so. So the main task here is to actually start on the assignment, start on the task. Then you get better as you go on it. And whenever I start to read one page at a time, my mind is already rewired on its connections that I read one page, so why don't I read 2 more pages? 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8. That is how I increase my pages and number of pages that I'm reading, and I'm also accomplishing my task, that is reading a book. And in type of essay, let's say that I'm writing one sentences, my brain is already structuring and finishing off the next sentences, which are already resulting that I've already written a paragraph. Maybe I've finished off 3 to 4 paragraphs. That is how I finish my essay writing. Let's say my assignment. When I'm structuring my brain to actually get my assignment's title done, I'm getting my title done, then I feel like there should be a subtitle, and then I'm getting off my more and more tasks done. The main fact here is that I'll have to structure and rewire my brain in order to start a task. Starting a task is the most difficult part, because if we once started, our brain is already rewired its connections in order to finish that task. And that is the main problem here. Most of us fail to start. That is the main problem. And when we start, we automatically go with the flow and finish off that task. So the 2-minute rule states that whatever action you want to accomplish, transform that action into a smaller version of it. Let's say, as I mentioned, reading a book is transformed into reading one page at a time. Finishing off an essay is transformed into writing one sentence at a time. Finishing off an assignment is transformed into writing the title and writing the subtitle. That is how you overcome procrastination. It's not the best way, but it will help a lot of students and especially a lot of people, especially among teenagers. That is exactly how I overcome procrastination in my life as well.